To expect that an evil person will not commit evil is madness, for it is an attempt to demand the impossible. But to allow such a person to act wickedly toward others and yet expect that they will not touch you, that is irrational and senseless. Marcus Aurelius. You are here now because your world has cracked. Betrayal is not merely a breach of an agreement. It is an attack on your safety, your self-esteem, and your perception of reality. The first mistake most people make in your position is waiting for the right moment to begin moving forward. You expect that one morning you will wake up with incredible motivation, a clear plan, and no pain in your chest. Allow me, as your mentor, to tell you a bitter truth. Motivation will not come. Motivation is a hormonal surge available to those who are doing well. In a state of deep psychological trauma, your brain operates in a mode of energy conservation and survival. To rely on emotional inspiration now is like trying to start the engine of a car that has an empty tank and torn wires. Real results are produced not by motivation, but by psychological architecture. Stoicism is not about enduring and remaining silent. It is an operating system for critical conditions. When Epictetus or Marcus Aurelius spoke of tranquility, they did not mean the absence of emotions. They meant the creation of an internal structure that no external event can shake. Betrayal is an external event. What you do with it is your internal architecture. We will not speak of forgiveness in a religious or sentimental sense. We will speak of how to ensure that betrayal ceases to be the center of your universe. We will build a system where your dignity does not depend on how despicably another person has acted. Section 1. The Comfort Trap and the Energy of Fear. When betrayal occurs, your psyche instantly enters a state that we call ego depletion in behavioral psychology. Your volitional resources are exhausted because every second is spent processing the shock. In such a state, it is easiest to slip into the comfort trap. What is comfort in the context of betrayal? It is not coziness. It is the predictability of suffering. You constantly replay what-if scenarios in your head. You monitor the betrayer on social media. You engage in endless internal dialogues trying to prove your righteousness. Why does your brain do this? Because it is familiar. Stepping out of these toxic reflections means stepping into the unknown, into a world where you are alone, where you must rebuild your life from scratch. Your brain fears the unknown more than it fears pain. It chooses familiar pain over unknown freedom. The mechanics of fear. When you avoid discomfort, for example, avoiding a conversation about a final breakup or not deleting a phone number, you feed your fear. In psychology, there is a term called exposure therapy. To overcome fear, you must encounter it in small portions. Constant avoidance of discomfort, attempts to forget through alcohol, mindless scrolling, or new random connections, leads to the atrophy of your ability to make decisions. You become an emotional invalid waiting for time to solve everything for you. But time does not heal. It only preserves the rot if the wound is not cleaned. Your exit. Conscious discomfort. The Stoics practiced premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils, and voluntary hardships. To regain control, you must learn to embrace small but manageable discomfort. The practice of radical sobriety. 1. Acknowledge the fact without adjectives. Instead of saying, "I was horribly betrayed by my closest person, I am destroyed," tell yourself, "The person with whom I had an agreement violated it. This is a fact of my biography today." By removing emotional epithets, you deprive the event of its power over you. 2. Dopamine diet. Your brain is currently seeking any way to relieve tension. Consciously refuse easy ways of distraction, social media, overeating, for 48 hours. Stay alone with your thoughts. Is it scary? Yes. But after an hour, you will realize that you are still alive. Your fear is exaggerated. 3. Physical discomfort. Start with an ice-cold shower or an intense workout. When your body fights external physical stress, it learns to shift focus from emotional pain to survival. This restores the neural connections responsible for willpower. Betrayal is chaos. Your task is to create an island of order. Every time you choose to act despite fear or the desire to hide under a blanket, you make a deposit into the bank of your future resilience. Why not forgiving is a Stoic position. In the context of our topic, not forgiving does not mean nurturing hatred. Hatred is a shackle that binds you to the betrayer more strongly than love. Not forgiving in Stoicism is justice. It is the recognition that the person has demonstrated their character. If you forgive, in the sense of returning everything to the way it was, you ignore reality. You say to the world, "It is acceptable to treat me this way." A true Stoic says, "I feel no anger toward you because anger harms me. But I no longer trust you because I value truth. You are no longer part of my circle of trust, never." This is not cruelty. This is the hygiene of the soul. Section 2. The art of letting go of results and the dichotomy of control. Why does betrayal hold you for such a long time? Why do you wake up after 3 months, 6 months, or a year and still feel that same pulling pain? The psychological reason is simple. You are trying to control what is not under your power. You are in a state of cognitive dissonance, trying to solve an equation in which you do not have access to all the variables. Stoicism offers the most powerful medicine for burnout and anxiety, the dichotomy of control. Epictetus began his lessons with a fundamental truth. Some things are up to us, and others are not. If you direct 100% of your efforts toward what does not depend on you, you are guaranteed to receive 0% results and 100% suffering. The just world trap. Your brain is evolutionarily tuned to seek justice. When you are betrayed, your internal security system screams, "This should not be. The guilty must be punished. They must realize what they have done." Herein lies the main danger. You attach your emotional healing to the behavior of another person. You wait for 1. Sincere remorse from the one who deceived you. 2. Recognition of your rightness by those around you. 3. A social boomerang that will strike the betrayer. As long as you wait for this, you are a slave. You have voluntarily handed the keys to your peace of mind to a person who has already proven their unreliability. The Stoic asks, why do you trust your happiness to a thief? Mechanics of burnout. Energy into the void. When you try to control external results, the opinions of others, the actions of a former partner, the outcome of a situation, your brain constantly scans the environment for confirmation of your expectations. Because these expectations are not met, the betrayer may live happily without feeling guilt. You fall into a state of learned helplessness. Your resources are spent on fighting reality rather than building a new life. You burn out not because you are doing a lot, but because your actions do not bring a predictable result. You are banging your head against the wall of another person's conscience, hoping the wall will break. But the wall is not your zone of influence. Your new strategy. Internal goal. Stoic wisdom teaches us to shift focus from the result to the process. In behavioral psychology, this is called quote _25, imagine an archer. His task is to hit the target. But from the moment the arrow leaves the bowstring, it is no longer under the archer's power. A gust of wind, a random bird, or the movement of the target can change the outcome. If the archer attaches his self-esteem only to hitting the target, he will forever be anxious. The Stoic archer does everything to aim perfectly, but he is prepared for the arrow to miss. His success lies in the quality of his shot, not in the fact of hitting. How to apply this to your situation? 1. Draw a line. Your efforts. How you look, how much you earn, how you treat your children, how you train your body, what books you read. This is your zone of 100% influence. Invest everything here. 2. Emotional detachment. The result: will he/she understand their mistake? Will society sympathize with you? These are external circumstances. Treat them like the weather. If it rains, you do not get angry at the clouds. You simply take an umbrella. If the betrayer does not repent, that is their weather, their character. It has nothing to do with you. 3. The principle of amor fati, love of fate. This is the highest level of Stoicism, not just to endure what has happened, but to accept it as necessary material for your growth. The betrayal happened. That is a fact. Now it is part of your landscape. The question is not, why did this happen? But how do I use this fire to temper my steel? Practical exercise. Control audit. Take a piece of paper. Divide it into 2 columns. Fore, left. Write down everything you worry about regarding the betrayal, their social media, what friends will think, whether they will return a debt, whether they will suffer. Right. Write down what you can do right now in these directions. Block them, take care of your health, earn money, spend time with real friends. Now look at the left column and consciously tell yourself, this is not mine. This belongs to the chaos of the world. I refuse to invest my emotions into this. Cross out the left column. Your focus is only on the right. Why never forgive is a way to maintain focus. In the context of the dichotomy of control, forgiveness often turns into an attempt to renegotiate with reality. People say, I will forgive them so that I feel better. This is again a deal with the external world, the true Stoic approach. You do not need to forgive them to become free. Freedom is when the actions of another person are no longer a factor in your mental equilibrium. You do not withhold forgiveness out of revenge, but out of realization. Your act is your nature. I have taken note of it and excluded you from my coordinate system. You are no longer in my field of influence, which means you are not even worth my anger. Anger is a currency too expensive to spend on a betrayer. Stoicism teaches pragmatism. Keep your energy for those who deserve it, and first and foremost, for yourself. When you stop waiting for a finale in the relationship with the betrayer, you discovered that the finale already arrived at the moment you decided to take care of your own life. You no longer wait for the other person to close the gestalt. You close it yourself, simply by leaving the room. Section 3. The architecture of inevitability, microactions, and environment design. We will build a system where you do not have to force yourself to be strong. We will create an architecture in which your healing becomes inevitable. In such a state, demanding that you just pull yourself together is like asking a person with a broken leg to run a marathon. Why willpower will fail you. There exists a concept called decision fatigue. Every time you fight temptation, for example, deciding not to look at their stories, you spend mental energy. By evening, your willpower battery is discharged, and that is precisely when relapses happen. Calls to exes, nightly breakdowns, sinking into depression. Instead of fighting yourself, we will change the landscape. We will turn your path to a new life into rails upon which you will move automatically. 1. The method of habit stacking. Our brain loves automaticity. Your day already consists of hundreds of habits you do not think about. Brushing your teeth, brewing coffee, checking mail. To implement new healing actions, they must be glued to existing ones. Example 1. As soon as I put my phone on the charger before bed, trigger, I open my journal and write one thing for which I respect myself today. New action. Example 2. After I press the button on the coffee machine, I take 5 deep breaths, focusing on the sensation of my feet on the floor. This returns you from thoughts of betrayal to your body to the present moment. 2. Environment design, the principle of friction. In behavioral psychology, there is the 20-second law. If an action takes 20 seconds longer to perform, the probability that you will do it drops exponentially, and vice versa. Digital hygiene. If you constantly visit the betrayer's page, do not rely on will. Block them everywhere. Delete search history so their name does not pop up first. Unfollow mutual friends who post photos with them. Make it so that checking their life requires 10 minutes of complex manipulations. Your brain is a lazy creature. It will eventually stop doing it simply to save energy. Physical space. Betrayal leaves anchors. The scent of perfume, a mug, a t-shirt, specific music. Every such object is a trigger that launches a cascade of cortisol, the stress hormone. Collect everything that reminds you of the person in a box and put it out of sight. Or better yet, throw it away. You are not erasing memory. You are clearing your RAM for new data. 3. Micro-actions, anti-victim. When we are betrayed, we feel small and helpless. Stoics cured this by returning a sense of agency, the ability to affect the world, but not through global achievements, but through micro-victories. The 2-minute rule. Any action that leads to your new goal, for example, learning a language, sports, a new project, must begin with an action taking less than 2 minutes. Do not start running. Put on sneakers. Do not write a life plan. Open notes and write a headline. Your brain needs to record the fact. I made a decision and I executed it. This restores the dopamine system destroyed by stress. 4. Creating the architecture of inevitability. You must organize your life so that you have no choice but to become better. Sign up for a group workout that is already paid for. Promise a friend a report on a book you read by Sunday. Surround yourself with people who do not discuss gossip and your drama, but speak about ideas and the future. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his diary, "In the morning, when you do not want to get up, tell yourself, 'I am rising to do the work of a human being.'" He did not wait for inspiration. He reminded himself of his function. Your function now is to become the person who outgrew this betrayal. Why not forgiving is critically important. Here, in the system of architecture of inevitability, the concept of total forgiveness is harmful. Why? Because forgiveness often means an attempt to restore the status quo. Your brain will try to forgive to return to the comfort zone, to old habits associated with that person. Not forgiving in this context is a safety signal. It is an internal prohibition on returning to the source of pain. It is an acknowledgement. That period of my life is closed. You build a wall not to lock yourself in, but to direct all the water of your attention into one turbine, into your own development. Section 4. Objective audit and the art of radical self-forgiveness. When the sun sets and external noise subsides, you find yourself in the most dangerous zone, alone with your brain. For a person who has been betrayed, the night is not a time for rest, but a courtroom. You act here simultaneously as prosecutor, defendant, and executioner. You infinitely review evidence, old correspondence, memories of how the person looked you in the eye and lied, moments where you could have changed something. This process is called rumination. It is an intellectual trap that mimics seeking a solution, but actually drives you deeper into depression. Stoicism proposes replacing this chaos with an objective audit. 1. The neurobiology of nightly self-torture. Your prefrontal cortex, responsible for logic and self-control, works like a battery. Throughout the day, you spend this resource on work and social interaction. By evening, the battery is depleted. At this time, the amygdala, your emotional center of fear, becomes active. This is why at 2 o'clock in the morning the betrayal seems unbearable. If you do not give your brain a clear algorithm, it will short-circuit on the topic of betrayal until morning. 2. The technique of illism, distancing through the third person. Stoics and modern researchers discovered the incredible effect of illism, addressing oneself in the third person. When you say, "I am in pain," you are inside the pain. When you write, "Today, Alexander felt a surge of anger upon seeing a shared photo," you become an observer. Evening audit. 30 minutes before sleep, take a paper journal. Describe your day as an outside chronicler. Do not use evaluative judgments like, "I was weak." Use facts. The subject experienced a decrease in energy at 4 p.m. but completed the planned workout. This depersonalizes the trauma. 3. The 3 pillars of Stoic audit. Block A. Analysis of errors without guilt. Ask, where did I allow external events today, the behavior of the betrayer, rumors, thoughts of the past, to break my resilience? A Stoic does not say, "I am worthless." He says, "This was an error in the allocation of attention. I have recorded it, and tomorrow I will make adjustments to the architecture of the environment." Block B. Register of victories, strengthening agency. Ask, where did I act according to my values, despite internal pain? Even if it was just brushing your teeth, it is a victory. Your psyche must see that you still have power over your life. Block C. Closing the book, resetting expectations. Write down everything you hoped for from the outside world today and let it go. I expected an apology. I release this expectation. My peace does not depend on another's repentance. 4. Why not forgiving? The betrayer is an act of self-love. We often hear toxic advice. You must forgive them for your own sake. In Stoicism, this looks different. Attempting to forgive someone who consciously destroyed your world is often a form of self-deception. Your brain knows trust is dead. By trying to forgive, you create an internal conflict. One part of you tries to be holy, while the other screams about injustice. Stoic position. You do not need to forgive to be free. You need to acknowledge the fact. The person committed a betrayal. That is their nature, their character, their choice. Period. Forgiveness, in the sense of restoring emotional closeness or justification, is not needed here. You simply move this person outside your zone of concern. They become like a natural disaster. You do not forgive the rain. You simply take cover. 5. Radical self-forgiveness, releasing the hostage. While you do not forgive the betrayer, you are obligated to perform an act of radical self-forgiveness. Most victims suffer from guilt for being trusting. The mechanics. Realize that the you then and the you today are different people. The you then did not have the experience you have now. You acted based on honesty because you are an honest person. It is not your fault that someone else proved incapable of matching your level of integrity. Exercise. Write a short note to your past self. I forgive you for trusting. You did the best you could with the knowledge you had. I take responsibility for your future, but I release you from the guilt of my past. 6. The death of the day and the metaphor of sleep. Marcus Aurelius taught, live this day as if it were your last. This is about completeness. When you lie down after the audit, the betrayal case for today is closed. It is not fully resolved, but it is sent to the archive. Right now, in the darkness of the room, there is no former life. There are no betrayers. There is only your body, your breath, and your dignity. You fall asleep not as a victim, but as an architect who has completed another difficult stage of building your internal castle. Conclusion: the architect of your own destiny. We have traveled a long way from the ruins of your trust to the foundation of a new, unbreakable personality. The transformation we spoke of is not a miracle. It is something you build every day, step by step. Betrayal became a radical dismantling of your old, vulnerable version. A final word on non-forgiveness. Let us be clear. Why do I, as your mentor, insist on the position of never forgive? In the world of cheap psychology, forgiveness is often confused with amnesia or surrender. You are asked to forgive to lighten the soul, but you are actually being asked to agree that your boundaries can be violated. You do not nurture anger because anger is a poison you drink yourself, hoping the other will die. You do not seek revenge because the best revenge is to be as unlike the one who hurt you as possible, to be successful, calm, and happy without them. You simply strike them out. You accept the act of another person as final evidence of their character. This is true freedom. You do not need to work on forgiveness. You need to work on your own value. When your life becomes full, large-scale, and systematic, the betrayer simply disappears over the horizon. You have become the architect of your path. Go and live. Your time did not begin when you were betrayed. It begins now, when you decided to be stronger than that. If you saw your own reactions or past behavioral models in these examples, put a plus in the comments. This does not speak of weakness. On the contrary, it is a signal that the process of changing your thinking is beginning.